UI design stands for user interface design. It is about the look of the design. UX design stands for user experience design. It's about designing the entire process of using a product. So not just the visual, but also the entire process and the feel. And finally, product design is even broader. It also touches on the business aspect of the design. So this is the theoretical differences, but just knowing the theoretical differences will actually confuse you a lot. That's because things are different in the real world. Hello, I'm Aliana Tsai, and in this video, I will break down the similarities and differences between UI, UX, and product design. And you will find out things like which tech company pays their designers really well. And this video is brought to you from the one and only Google. Right now, I run a company by myself. This month is the first month that I've ever hired a group of designers. So now I can tell you about how things are done in a company perspective. The goal of a company is very clear. They want somebody to deliver a set of design that works and looks good, function and form. Whether you first do it through UX research, then creating a persona doing a wireframe, or jump directly to creating the UI, or have tons of meetings with different stakeholders to talk about product, they don't care. At the end of the day, they expect the same deliverable, a great Figma file. And whether they name their designers as UI, UX, or product designers is completely up to them and up to whatever they are comfortable with or up to whatever they know. There are still so many business owners who don't know what is UI, UX design, and they will hire web designers. The next perspective is something you would definitely not think about, which is from a course creator perspective. This is actually very important to you because you are going to learn whatever other people or courses teach. But from a course creator perspective, we have to name our course in a way that is easy to market and sell. So we need to do SEO optimizations when it comes to naming our course. And at the moment, there's still a lot of attention on the term UX design. So even if we want to teach product design, we still need to name our course as UI UX design. Otherwise, people are not going to search it online. Product design is a little bit confusing because there are tons of physical product designers out there. So if you go ahead and compute the job salary online, you may find out that product designers make less. But the reason to that could be that they didn't filter out physical product designers. So if you want to work in tech as a designer, you not only need to learn UX design, you also need to learn Figma, UI design, and product thinking, or a little bit of business knowledge. If you just learn UX design, you cannot become a UX designer because a UX designer still requires you to do UI and product design. I hope I made it clear. Finally, from a designer perspective, what should you brand yourself as? And what's the differences between these titles? If you eventually want to work in a tech company, you will eventually brand yourself as a product designer. Here's what happened when I was working at eBay. I was brought into eBay as a senior UI UX designer. But then, everyone changed our title to product designer because we realized that if you are named as UI UX designers, a lot of other stakeholders may not know what you do and then doesn't invite you early on to their meetings during the product discovery stage. If you are not in the room when the important meetings are held, you won't even have an opportunity to carry out a decent design process. The product manager and the leadership may have already finished the design, they throw it to you, and then they want you to visualize it, but you already have a design system, so you just copy-paste templates. That is not what a good designer do, and to give us more power, we change our titles to product designers. And in this way, product managers and leadership knows that, oh, we're designing for the product, so we need to be invited to the meetings during the product discovery stage, and then we have a say on how to design the product. If you want to earn more, you need to be invited to the important meetings early on. Otherwise, you're just a visualizer. Now, let us take a guess on which company pays their designers really well. So I don't know if you know this, but Netflix is actually a company that pays their designers very well. Netflix is famous for hiring good designers who can manage themselves. And you can see the salary range is huge. But based on what I've heard, designers usually get around 300 to 400K a year. Netflix is also famous of paying only in cash. And by the way, Netflix named their designer product designer. Let us talk about a different company who I don't know how much they pay designers, but I know their designers have extremely high power, and that is Airbnb. The reason that designers at Airbnb has lots of power is because their founder, their CEO, Brent Chesky, he is a designer, he came from a design background. He's pretty much the only Fortune 500 CEO that come from a design background. So I hope one day you're there, another designer CEO. Okay, Airbnb is not hiring designer right now. Oh, looks like at Airbnb, people are called experienced designer. Now let's look at Google. Google is famous of having free food, amazing campuses like this one. And also Google really differentiate their designers title. So you can see there's interaction designer, there's visual designer, there are a lot of interaction designer. And looks like right now they're hiring senior or staff level roles around 200K in annual revenue. Let's also search on Apple, Meta, and Amazon. So instead of UI design, UX design, or product design, Apple calls it human interface design. Yeah. And I think they also have their human interface guidance. HIG. That's their design system. Told ya, it's just dependent on whatever they want to call their designers. Now let's see Amazon. Amazon, work-life balance is a little bit rough. So is Netflix. I mean, if you're paid that much, don't expect to have great work-life balance. You're going to have a lot of responsibility, lots of meetings. Amazon calls their designers UX designers. They're also hiring senior designers, so around 150K to 200K. Now let's look at Microsoft. Microsoft is way more chill compared to other companies. Looks like Amazon calls their designers product designer. So I also know that a lot of companies call their designers product designers, but their researchers, UX researchers. That is another trend. Microsoft pays their designers a little bit less than other companies in tech, but it's still a good deal because the work-life balance is usually pretty good. Now let's do eBay. Look, product designer. So staff product designer is about 200K at eBay. eBay work-life balance used to be very good, but I cannot promise for now. It really depends on which product you work for. I work for eBay ads, and I can say that, ooh, there's a lot of things need to do. Let's also look at Meta. I've heard that Meta designers have a lot on their plate, and Meta is quite chaotic. Meta designers are also called product designers. I know they're paid pretty well, so 200K or even more, but that's Reality Labs. Let's see monetization. So product designer monetization, maybe 150K. Let us also look at DoorDash. DoorDash designers are also called product designers. So they are paying them also not bad. But again, DoorDash work-life balance, it's also quite rough. I know many of you want to work in a tech company one day, and you may ask, what is the point of me showing all these salaries? It's not like you have an option to choose at the moment. You're right, many of these companies only hire senior designers. It may take you a very long time for you to find your first position in a big tech company, but you might skip the junior level. I did that. Many of my students in Fast Track UX experienced the same. We spent years working on client projects and then use that as our experience, and then use those case studies to present in these big tech companies' interviews. Many of us also work for a lot of startups and even founded our own so that we can have case studies to showcase. One of my students in Fast Track UX transitioned from an architect to a product design role. She felt like she was unemployed for over 1 year, but in fact, she was working on different client projects and also working on her own startup. And she skipped the junior and the senior level, directly getting a design lead role. I just want to put this out here. Now I'm going to show you what a product design process usually looks like. If you took a UX bootcamp or a Google UX course, the process you are learning is the theoretical process, is the ideal process. But things usually happen pretty differently in a big tech company. So let me share with you something. When you just started off, you may think you need to spend a lot of time to learn typography, how to choose colors. But in fact, product designers usually don't spend much time choosing the font or choosing the color. Because in big tech company, we have this thing called design system. A design system documents most components you need when it comes to a design project. And it also documents when to use what shade of color, what to do in light mode, what to do in dark mode, and it also has a huge icon bank. A niche in product design is designing for the design system. That is if you really are good at designing the UI. Most designers, however, we just use the default design system to design new features. I want to share with you this example. So if I go to my profile page on Instagram, there's a new logo on the top right that leads me directly to the new app they built, Threads. I want to talk about how this might have been designed. From the UI perspective, let's be very honest. We just need to get the logo from Threads and then put it here. If you want to be fancy, add an auto layout to these 3 icons and then make sure the spacing is the same, the size is the same, and the color is the same. How long do you think it will take on the UI level? 1 minute? But even for adding an icon like this, the process could be very complicated. I bet what happened at Thread is that they launched the app, a lot of people sign up in the first week, but then people just fade out and don't use it. And now their leadership is probably realizing that they are not catching up in terms of their KPIs. So it's very likely that the designers at Threads are working toward this overall goal to increase daily active users. And they might have went into a sprint project where in 1 or 2 weeks, they have to propose multiple solutions to the leadership, visualize them in the PowerPoint, and showcase different entry points they've thought of from Instagram to Threads. And because this is probably a high visibility or high impact project, there's going to be tons of people in middle management and in leadership going into the meetings, discussing about what we're going to do. And now as a product designer, not only you need to brainstorm on how to think about more entry point, you also need to host so many meetings and then gather input. It is also very likely that the designer at Threads need to collaborate with some designers at Instagram. And then probably the designer at Threads are more enthusiastic about this project because this benefits Threads more than Instagram. The designers at Instagram have to give them all those kind of files so that they can put their elements of Threads into Instagram. So they also need to work with the lead engineers in Instagram on whether any of these designs are feasible to implement in the short term because they need users now. And also you need to think about whether we shall put the Threads icon here or in a different place. And let's say if I click on Threads, does it take to my profile or should it take to the homepage of Threads? Look, their design decision is this will take to my profile. But what about the icon here? Also takes to my profile. They added 2 entry points that lead to the exact same page on Threads, on the same page on Instagram. That is how desperate they are, and they made this design decision because there's a product goal they need to reach. They cannot afford filling Threads at the moment, and they're still rescaling it. So what I'm trying to say here is that you may have learned from UX bootcamps about what is the theoretical way or the ideal way to design for a product. I'm pretty sure the designers at Thread, they didn't go through the process of first doing a thorough UX research, then come up with a persona, then write out the user journey, then do the wireframe, then do a usability testing session, then iterate to hi-fi. It's going to be much more chaotic when you understand the business perspective and when you have a tight deadline and when you need to work with different stakeholders or even different designers from different teams. So in summary, UI stands for user interface, UX stands for user experience, and product design is even broader. It includes a business perspective and a product perspective. But if you want to work as a designer in big tech, you need to learn UI, UX, and product design regardless what is the job title. The job title is whatever the company wants to call their designers. You could be called a human interface designer if you are at Apple. So designers invest in both UI, UX, and product design knowledge. At the end of the day, a good designer is a designer who can understand the business aspect, customize a UX process based on the constraints and the context, and eventually deliver a great Figma file that leads to the creation of a feature or a product that not only solves the user's problem, but also helps the business to achieve the business goals. If you want to learn more about how design is done in big tech, check out my course at fasttrackux.com, or else you can get a PDF guide for free in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Aliana and I will see you in this video.